we're going to start with the first and most common configuration, the side-by-side. All right? We got one over here, hopefully touching in the middle, directly above our head. So anytime we have a dual deployment, we want to get rid of the main parachute if we can. It's just safer and less complicated. So if we're above 1,000 feet and we're 100% certain that the canopies are not entangled in any way, and we know that if we pull that cutaway handle, that reserve, those main risers have somewhere to go, then let's get rid of that main parachute. And the best way to do that is what we call left on left of the left. So I'm going to turn my back to you for a moment. So I'm going to take the rear riser of the left canopy, left hand, left rear riser on the left canopy. Left on left of the left. Right hand on the cutaway pillow, peel the Velcro. Then bring that riser in, cause the canopy on the left to separate, get at least 1/2 canopy's width of separation, and then cut away and let go. We didn't choose main or reserve canopy. We just chose the canopy on the left. So once we've pulled that off, we cut away, let go, and make sure you let go, because if you hold on to that riser, it can actually pull your shoulder apart. If that happens to be the reserve, you don't want to keep turning all the way around and flying into the main parachute that you just got rid of. All right, so here we are, flying along, fat, dumb, and happy. Here comes the reserve. So you see it coming out. Watch the free bed. Free bed comes right off. And then look how slow that reserve inflates. It takes a little bit of time because the main is at half brakes right now. I haven't released the brakes yet. And it's going pretty slow. And you can see as that happened, I'm going to go to the next video here. Here's your point of view. And here comes that reserve. And you notice I didn't manipulate the canopies in any way. And they brought themselves together into the side-by-side. That tells me that one, there's no defect with any canopy. That means they're both wanting to fly straight. And it doesn't necessarily mean they're not entangled, but it's usually a pretty good sign if they go right into a really nice side-by-side. And so you can kind of just get some visuals here of what the parachutes look like flying like that. So this next video is just me separating the canopies using left on left of the left. This canopy combination, this is the military Javelin with a 360 main and a 375 reserve. Obviously the reserve's on the left in this case, so I'm going to go ahead and separate using the left. Here we go, separate, separate, separate. About right there, that's plenty of separation. Cut away, let go. All right, so in this video, so I've got the reserve open. I'm going to go ahead and throw the main out. Main comes out, and as you can see, as it starts to deploy, it starts line twisting. And then I do everything wrong from this point, and I do not get it to untwist. And so now it flies into the reserve, bangs into that, dives off to the left, and now I'm in some form of a downplane here because of these line twists. So I'm reaching and pulling on different risers here. I try to bring the main over to the reserve, but the reserve runs away. So now I got to go ahead and, all right, so now I'm going to shift my weight a little bit to try to bring the reserve back, which it does start helping. And then I'm going to go ahead and get the risers. So you can see I reach above the twist here on the left, grab that one on the right, and now I can hold them together. I can pull them apart. I can hold them together, and I can steer them. So that's how you control it, even if you've got the line twist. So you can see because of the twist, it didn't want to stay in the side-by-side. It wants me to keep them together. So here I'm going to go ahead and do left on left to the left, separate, cut away, let go. With this dual deployment, this is a great one. This is a military guy out of Paris Valley, U.S. Navy SEAL, and has a dual deployment on a training jump. They do a lot of training out there. And what I really like about this video is how much time this guy takes to make sure they're not entangled, and he very carefully separates and handles getting rid of it. So you see here, the canopies are open. Instructor obviously staying with him here. So he's checking it out, he's looking at things, he's like, oh man, what do I do here? And then they kind of go into a side-by-side right there. If you could keep them like that, great. And then they kind of start to separate a little bit here again too. So you can see he's just looking at it. But guess what? He's got a lot of time up. He's got a lot of time. He's got altitude, he's got time. 2 big open canopies, make sure. You're closer to the ground, things have to happen a little quicker. So he's very confident that he can get rid of this main. He's got his the risers in his left arm, right hand in his cutaway handle, got the Velcro peeled, and he's like, all right, it's time, cutaway, let go. And he's clear, and now he can safely land that reserve. Remember, anytime we can land the reserve alone, land the reserve alone. We only land 2 if we have to. So following up with the side-by-side, what if the canopies are entangled? What if you're below 1,000 feet where you don't have time to do a good inspection, separate, cut away, and find a place to land a reserve? Or what if you're just not sure? Because remember, we said we have to be 100% certain if we're going to get rid of that main. Anything less than 100% and we're taking a chance. So if we are in this situation, then we need to land both parachutes. Control them and land them together. Now, there's a couple ways we can do that. One is by using on the side-by-side, we've got both canopies like this. We have a super high aspect ratio wing. So this thing, the side-by-side wants to glide, right? So we're going to take the inside rear riser on this canopy, the inside rear riser on this canopy, and turn them both towards each other, slightly. Just enough to keep tension on them. Because what we don't want is we don't want them doing this. We want them to stick together and stay together. And that way they're easier to control. Now, once I have them stuck together, I can steer this thing all the way to the ground. And all I have to do is always push the canopies together. So if I want to turn that way, I push the other canopy in that direction. Push in that direction. If I want to go that direction, I take this canopy on the far side and push in the direction I want to go. So we're always pushing the canopies together, never pulling them apart. And by doing this, we can fly this thing all the way to the LZ, all the way to our primary landing spot. We got a 4-to-1 glide ratio. This thing is going to outglide everybody else up there, unless you're on a raider or intruder. And so just fly that landing pattern, come in, and then as you come in on final approach, keep them touching, don't let them separate. Do not try to flare either or both canopies. You'll just make them angry. So just keep them together, slide, run, or PLF. But the goal is to not let them separate. All right, so in this video, you can see that I've got the reserve canopy on the right side and the main canopy on the left. So anytime that you have, I'll hit play and watch a play. Anytime I got the reserve over here and it's a 7-cell, and I've got a main that's a 9-cell or a more gliding canopy, I found each time in all the combinations I jumped that it had a tendency to always drift to the direction of the 7-cell. So whichever side the reserve was on, it had a natural tendency to go that side. If it was on the right, it had a right turn. If it was on the left, it had a left turn. As you can see in this video, with it on the right, it kept turning to the right. Now, by holding a little extra tension on the right side, I could make it fly straight. And then the next video here shows the MJ. This is the military javelin with the MS military silhouette 360 and the TR 375. So big canopies, and I'm really slick here. You'll notice that the canopies don't necessarily, the lines aren't the same length. So I've got the main with longer lines and the reserve against the side of it. And that's okay. That's okay. They'll still just push against those lines and hold them steady. Now I want you to watch how small a movement I make on this riser. I'm going to reach up, pull on the inside riser of the canopy on the right, and watch how quickly it turns. It doesn't take hardly any at all here. There's the pull right there, and there's the turn. So it's actually very responsive, even with big canopies. The smaller the canopies, the more responsive and the more radical things are. The bigger the canopies, the slower and more docile things are. So in this case, I'm just flying the MJ around, and you can see it has a natural tendency to go left. So if I have the reserve on the left and the main on the right, I'm probably going to do a left-hand pattern. If it's on the right, I'm going to do a right-hand pattern, playing to its natural tendency to have a drift towards the reserve. So here I'm going to go ahead and land them. Now on this particular jump, I was coming into land and I felt really good about it, so I let off on the one on the right. And you'll see at the last second, it starts, the one on the right, the reserve, starts to separate a little bit right before I touch down. For that reason, don't let up. Keep them together all the way to the surface. So I let up right there, and they started separating a little bit. Now, I did a PLF on all of these landings because that's what I recommend. It's an unusual situation. It should be an unusual landing. If you can run or slide or PLF, that's fine. Just protect yourself because it's not a normal landing. Here's that same landing from the ground camera, and watch, you'll see that reserve. It starts to separate right there, just a little bit. And I could have ran that out, but I decided to do a PLF. All right, so here's another one. Right after that jump, I'm landing the other direction, and I hold it all the way to the ground. And then here's the video of that landing. And you see a little separation right at the beginning there, and then they stick together all the way through the touchdown. And then I got one more for you. This is landing the military javelin. And so there was a great big log right in front of me where I was about to land there. So at the last second, I pushed it off to the right, slid right a little bit, avoided the big log, and had a nice soft touchdown. And you can see how the canopies, I'm just making them stay together. Don't let them get too far apart.